and welcome to Crafts and Crime. I'm Amy.
I'm Elaine.
And as always, we have a craft and a crime.
We sure do.
And this is the new year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So happy New Year.
Yay.
I think it's the day after. Is New Year's on a Monday?
I think so this year. Yes, that's why the kids have extra time off because they didn't want them to have, because New Year's Day is a Monday.
Yeah. So happy New Year.
Yay. That's awesome.
So
hope you had fun and it was safe.
Yeah.
And as you can hear, I sound like a prepubescent boy. We have been sick as the time of recording. I think it was two things. I think we got sick with one thing and then it was immediately into something else.
Probably.
And I am never bronchial and this is killing me. Sorry. I literally coughed so much I pulled a muscle in my back.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've thrown my back out before, just like you have, and so it scared me. But I just strained a muscle, and when I was like 18 or 19, I had bronchitis really bad one time. I think I've had bronchitis like 4 times in my life, not a lot. And I freaking coughed till I got a hernia.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I always get injured.
I've thrown my back out sneezing.
Oh my God.
But
that scares me so bad.
I've thrown my back out a few times. I remember the first time I ever did it. It was Mother's Day,
and so sad. You're under 40.
Yeah, it was Mother's Day, and Avery was like a baby because she was still in a car seat, but not like the carry car seat. So I think she was like a year old. So she was in like the convertible car seat. And this is when I had the small, BMW, the convertible, the the 4-seater. Yeah, I had an old one.
Yeah, we know you're paying because we made the mistake. We have a sports car that does not have back doors, and we had booster seats in there.
Yeah, I drove that BMW for like forever.
It was cute.
And I had 2 kids. I had Troy and Avery, but it could only fit me, Jack, Troy, and Avery, and that's it.
There was not like put groceries at your feet.
No, I actually made it all the way from IKEA home. Here in this city when we lived at the apartment. Or no, it was when we lived here.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it was when we lived here in this house.
Love IKEA.
And I made it with 2 bed frames in that small car, sticking out the window.
They do really
like it stuck out like
those
this
things
much.
so well too.
Yeah, so I made it happen, and I did Costco trips in that car, and I had a small trunk, but. So
I got distracted.
Was totally distracted. But
this is another part. I'm on cough medicine.
I got brain fog.
Of ibuprofen. You threw your back out.
So it was a little. Yeah, it's a little car. 2-door convertible car, and so I'm reaching down to put Avery in her car seat. And my back,
it's not funny.
My back like spasmed up.
Yeah.
And I froze, and it freaked Avery out, and she grabbed my necklace, and it broke. And it was like, this was, not early 2000, how old she is, but so 2010, well, she was born.
It's okay.
The teen eras of the 2000s. And it was like I had a big beaded necklace, and those were all
chunky necklaces.
Yeah, it went all over the parking lot.
Oh no!
And I was just like, oh my gosh! And so the car actually had
things after another
heaters.
Yes.
And so I turned the back
Volkswagen.
Yes, I turned the back heater on all the way to my mom's house, and I was like, I'm sorry, I threw out my back.
That sucks. It sucks so bad, and it's
then
always the simplest thing.
Yeah.
Yep. I threw mine out literally right after, I think my youngest it was right before we moved into our first apartment together. And you were helping me pack up, and I was like, my back, because I heard it like a week and a half before. I threw my back out leaning over. I mean, she was a chubby baby.
Yeah, she was.
I still wasn't used to lifting up that kind of weight.
Yeah.
So I just lifted her up.
Yeah.
I lifted her up out of one of those little saucer play things, and I picked it up, and I picked her up, and she didn't even kick her little legs or anything like that. It wasn't like she made a jerking motion. I was just not strong, and it threw it out, and I was like, oh, and I was literally had to toss her on my bed, she knew it was like she was like, yeah, but I was like, and luckily it was like my room was so small that it was like 3 inches, she was gonna make it, but holy shit, it was so bad. And ever since then it gets hurt so easy.
All you young people, enjoy your backs now while you can, because once you throw it out once, then it happens a lot more often.
Even if you're middle-aged or older, if you do not have back problems, bless your heart.
Lucky.
So,
yeah. My mom threw out her back really bad one time, and it just kept happening after that. And I know stress can,
because it makes it tense all the time.
Yeah,
so the inflammation around the area that's already messed up.
And so it's like you can tell when you have a weak back. And like, I'll remember when I like threw my back out twisting on my couch doing laundry.
Yeah.
I twisted to the left to put a towel next to me, and my whole back spasmed.
It's all the tension.
And yeah, so
another thing too is like with our workouts, we need to integrate like core and back strength, and then that will help us stabilize all those muscles to keep.
Yeah.
I have something. I never got diastasis recti from having a baby.
I did.
I know so many women who have.
I
didn't, but what I got was flared ribs that never went down.
Yeah.
So I will bend over. And let's be real, chubby or not, if you bend over a certain way, your rolls roll because we have flesh.
Yeah.
And so it'll pinch up, and I got a little around here, and it'll like pinch up and jam a rib out of place, like, and I'll feel it, clunk, clunk, and it's like painful, but it's also nasty, and you can dislocate the cartilage of a rib.
Didn't your mom, she popped a rib out or whatever when she was here that one time? And
No, she leaned over the couch and fractured three of her ribs.
That's what it was.
Yeah, because crazy. Our family has like osteoporosis really bad. It's like something really common. And then the shitty thing is, if you take a lot of calcium and vitamin D, you make too much, and then you can have extra bone growth that like bone spurs and all this nonsense. So it's like,
that's crazy.
There's barely any in between. Sorry, but like,
I know.
we're both like pretty like
falling
while
apart.
we believe in science, we're like, okay, so just go outside. But
yeah,
it really, it's a lot of needing to get natural sunlight. Helps our bones a lot more than we realize.
And then I have my knee problem. My gosh,
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
We're falling apart. Yeah, I dislocated my knee and hyperextended it. And
it's not funny. I'm just like,
it's my left knee, and it kept trying to slip out, so I had to wear a knee brace for like months.
Yeah.
And like the one with the metal hinge in it.
Did it have the little patella stabilizer? Oh, that makes me want to
and it was like big. It was like a big gel like ring that goes around your kneecap,
donut for your knee.
And then it had hinges in the side here,
bionic.
But it was big. It was like from my shin to
bionic
my thigh.
woman leg.
Yeah. And I had to wear that thing forever, and ever since then my knee's just never been the same.
Yeah,
it's weak. I can tell when a storm's coming
for sure.
My knee, it's if you've never like dislocated anything, if
you've never broken a bone.
I've never broken a bone. Oh, no, wait. No, I broke my toe.
But that's the thing that, like, if you've never broken a bone. See, I haven't broken a bone outside of that.
Yeah.
So, because, like, I've broken a couple toes. But that hurts forever.
Yeah.
You're, like, almost never the same.
I know. Jack's toe is still messed up.
I totally forgot.
It's so gross.
That poor thing. That sucks.
It's really
At least toenails come back.
I know. But, I'm like, yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Our broken backs, our broken knees, and broken toes. We're all.
I think a lot of it is
just
just because like it's cooling down here.
Yeah,
and we're gonna
finally
start feeling it. Yeah, like it's sunny, but the evenings are gonna get like one of the evenings coming up this next week is gonna be 41, which is bananas for us.
Yeah,
like this time of year, that is insane. And they're talking about like if you believe in that stuff, which I totally do. Animals are acting weird. They're molting in weird schedules. Like
I have so many chicken feathers all over the coop.
do too, especially because it was really windy. And they, like, exploded everywhere. In
oh
the
my
wind,
gosh, we got some crazy winds.
It was like unprecedented levels. What the news was saying.
My entire rabbit pop-up that I have over my rabbits is completely destroyed. And
one
then
of
it was
my tarps is completely shredded. I have two on mine because mine's longer, but I have two, and it was because the wire was like scraping.
Yeah,
and so it wasn't technically the wind, but it didn't help, and it like shredded it apart.
Yeah,
so
the tarp over my chicken run was like flapping.
Oh, by the way, this was very warm wind.
Yes,
it was not cold.
I was afraid we were going to get fires or power outages.
Exactly. Yeah.
And Jack said there was when he was driving home, and he had to go somewhere that day, do a couple errands or something. He was like, a lot of the city didn't have power, and there were trees all over. And that was like when I came over,
yard.
I was like, there's so many sticks in your yard.
I was literally sitting on the stairs this morning, and I was looking around. And I was like, those are some good sticks. I'm gonna pick them up.
I know. I almost tripped on one. I was like, man, that's a good stick.
There's a lot of really good sticks, and I like making little. So like, I made like a funny little Blair Witch epitaph thingy, and it's like really, really, so it looks exact. And it's freaked out a bunch of people, but I'm like, dude, it's not real. Come on. But little things like that are so cute. And when you have like perfect sticks, it's silly because people will spend money buying perfect sticks for like traditional looking crafts and stuff. And for whatever reason, these trees we have lining our entire street have like the best sticks.
Really good sticks. Well, that's like this stick that I have for my macrame thing, my feathers or leaves or whatever, feathers. Yeah. That's just a good stick from my backyard. I literally had Jack cut it off of a tree. That's awesome. The one that caught fire. We have a tree on the side of our house, and it grew up into the power lines,
which are everywhere because inner city, like you're in your backyard and you're like, oh my god, my patio umbrella is gonna hit this power line if I'm not careful.
And it's hard because it's like, is that a power line? Is that a cable line? Is it like, you know,
scary?
But so this tree grew up into the power line. And I had to call the power company to come out because they will cut it down for free.
Like, they don't want to be sued.
Because I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, the whole tree is charred. Like the big section of it was charred black.
That's crazy.
And so they sent someone out and they looked and they were like, oh yeah. So this
eventually would have caught completely.
And that is right. It's like touching our house. Yeah. You know, branches of it are. So it was kind of scary, but I got that stick before they chopped it down. But did you see it? It's like grown back. Jack used to go out there and like finish cutting it before it gets it back up into the power lines. But the cat's it's always him.
It's always somebody.
He sleeps under the bed and then
pops out in the most inappropriate time.
Yeah, he hears us and he's like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
Yeah. Okay, before we get started, I have the funniest thing that happened. Cats. Binks was really needy today, and he wanted a bunch of attention, and he kept bugging me, and it's because he wanted to go outside. He wanted to go out the back door, and he's the only cat we'll let pop out for just like a second and then bring him back in. So you know, he's very vocal, as you guys know.
I know.
He's really vocal. So he looked at me and he like meowed, and then I said, "No, you can't go outside." And he went, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I don't want you out in the backyard." And he went, "No." It was creepy. Even Lenore was like, "What the heck?" Yeah, it's really funny. Okay.
Frankie talks a lot. Frank.
He does. Oh, they all
scratching on the
Calvin at nighttime.
Oh my gosh, he was doing that this morning. I swear, my cats are so noisy. Except for Kiki, she's only noisy when she wants food. Okay, so we'll just get into the.
It's a long episode today. I
think. So Happy New Year! Yay! Here's your content you've been waiting for. We do hope you like the last two. That was a little.
Oh yeah.
Well, the last one specifically. Anyway, so we're getting back into the crafts and the crime. So
I'm so interested in what your craft is because you said it was like so long
because there's so much information. So the last craft that I did was the glass etching.
Yes.
Because I did, the wine glasses and
I'm
stuff.
Excited.
So today I'm doing glass engraving.
Okay.
So there's a lot of information. I found myself writing it like a report, so I'm sorry because it's just the school part in my brain of like, I got to get all the facts and I got to write up all this information. So that's why I was like, oh my gosh, it's so long. I usually don't have my craft typed up this long, but I also kind of like wrote it up anyway. So so glass engraving, like I said in the glass etching episode, it's different because glass etching uses chemicals, something caustic to scratch away the surface. Glass engraving is exactly as it sounds. It's you're engraving on glass using different techniques. So I'll go through some of the techniques. So there's the hand engraving technique. So there's diamond point engraving, and this uses like a diamond tip tool, and you scratch onto the glass surface, and you can make like really precise lines because it's a fine point, and you can adjust the depth by the amount of pressure that you put. So this is good for like really detailed designs, text, fine patterns, and it's really precise. Then cool. You have copper wheel engraving, and it's uses what it is, a copper wheel, and it's rotated against the glass surface while abrasive materials like emery or pumice are applied to it. And you can, once again, control the depth and direction by, just moving the copper wheel. And so it gives like really smooth patterns.
Huh.
So this is good for like intricate designs, borders, and repetitive patterns. Then you have sandblasting. So just like glass etching, sandblasting is in the engraving category as well. And so we've talked about that before. It's, just you use a stencil or whatever to protect the parts of the glass. You don't want the design to be, or to help create the design, and then you just blast the abrasive material.
Exactly, because it's abrasive versus a chemical agent.
Yes, so that's why I mentioned it in the etching, because it is used in both. Because sandblasting you can use for an etched technique or an engraved technique, because you can combine sandblasting in with the diamond point, a hand tool or whatever. So then we have the more, obviously more recent times, contemporary methods such as laser engraving. So obviously, it uses a laser, and it's controlled using obviously computer software, and you can make like really complex patterns. And the intensity of the laser, just like anything else, determines the depth. So, and this is like, you can use this for anything really, text, 3-dimensional designs, all that. So then you have rotary engraving, and it's similar to the copper wheel because it's like a motorized tool that, rotary engraving tool. And so it grinds down, and there's different like attachments too. So this is used in like mass production glass etching. And then so this is commonly used for creating patterns on glassware, trophies, and decorative items with like, once again, repetitive or intricate
I swear
designs.
That is the tip that's in the Cricut Maker.
I think
rotary
so.
tip.
Yeah.
Because like you have to, when we had like mentioned that, you like have to change out, it's called the housing, and you remove the tips and you can add them in for those different machines.
Yeah, I think you are right.
Last time. It sounds so familiar, that one thing.
Then acid etching, like we talked, that is used in glass. So like I said, etching and sandblasting, it's all the same.
I totally get it. It's like saying it's brogues and Oxfords. I think it's a shoe can have a brogue pattern, but that doesn't make it an Oxford. But an Oxford is an Oxford with a brogue pattern. So brogue shoes are not always Oxfords.
Yeah. So
sorry, that was like
etching is not always engraving, and engraving is not always etching.
It just depends the method that's used.
Yes. So, and you can use them interchangeably, so, and so you could be doing engraving and you're
vernacular.
like, I want to do some etching over here instead of engraving. I want this part to be engraved and this part to be etched. So this all creates like really pretty
depth
designs.
and textures.
Yes. Yeah. So,
cool.
Then we have, vitriography. I can never say these hard words. It's a printmaking technique for glass engraving, and it transfers ink from an engraved glass plate onto paper or something else. And so the glass plate is engraved with the design, and then ink is applied to the surface, and then the ink is transferred to a paper through a press. And
my God. So it has the same texture. Oh, pretty. Like frosty.
So, yeah. So this allows, like, you can do multiple prints on glass engravings. So yeah. And then there's stipple engraving, which is just like the diamond point engraving, but it's done entirely by hand with a very sharp point made of either diamond or tungsten carbide. It's then tapped. So stippling, you tap onto the surface of the crystal glass, and it's basically just a bunch of tiny dots that then make up a design. And
it's
so
like a tattoo.
Yeah, exactly. So
with a liner needle.
Just like, like over and over.
Oh my God, my hand. That sounds terrible.
I know. And then the sound, I just can't imagine like nails on a chalkboard almost.
No thanks.
Okay, so those are all the different techniques. And so this is where I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much information. There's a lot of history, and it goes all the way back to the Egyptians and Romans. Of course. As always, it's like all of our crafts. It's like all the way back to
the beginning of
time.
Civilization.
Civilization, yeah, early civilization. So Archaeological finds suggest that these civilizations had basic tools to scratch or carve designs onto glass vessels. And in Egypt, artists had glass vessels that they had intricate, like, hieroglyphics and symbolic motifs.
Nice.
And glass artifacts have been found in burial sites, such as in Pharaoh Tutankhamun. And these engravings depicted religious scenes, daily life, and symbols of power. And these date from 1500 BCE to 30 BCE. Once again, those dates are just so weird because it goes backwards.
Yeah.
So that's a long period of time, 1500 to 30.
Yeah, seriously.
And
1470 years.
Yeah. Oh, that was quick math.
Booyaka!
I can't do that. So the Romans obviously expanded upon the Egyptian techniques, and they used more sophisticated methods of glass production and decoration. Each civilization will expand.
They live in sand. Like, there's so much sand. The resources, that's like exactly what we were talking about in the glass.
The glass.
No.
Oh, the glass making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The windows. Like glass windows and stuff. Glass.
So
the commodity was available, so they were the ones that, like, they had the most access to so much. So it makes so much sense. I love it.
Yeah. And so they just not only made glass, but made it pretty.
Yeah.
So glass vessels from this period, dating between 27 BCE and 476 CE, feature finely engraved designs showing the Romans' proficiency to use these cutting tools to create these detailed patterns. They were really good at it. And Roman glass was not only useful, like a cup or a bowl or whatever, but it was like using this as a form of, like, artistic expression. And
cool.
A lot of the vessels found featured mythological themes and very intricate scroll work.
Fun.
So now we move on to...
They probably put flowers and stuff in it, just like we do.
Yeah. And you can find pictures of all of this. Just Google it, and you can find like Egyptian glass carving, or engraving. So now we move on to the Byzantine and Islamic period between 476 CE and 1453 CE, following the fall of the Roman Empire. The art of glass engraving, like, evolved under the influence of the Byzantine and Islamic cultures. And these civilizations contributed to the development of new types of motifs and techniques. And it actually became a really important part of religious and ceremonial objects, which makes sense. So very intricate geometric patterns and calligraphy. I struggle with words. Calligraphic? Calligraphic?
I
Yeah.
wonder.
Calligraphy stuff.
Yeah.
So, on the glass vessels. And this, once again, was just really showed the artistic expression and just the cultural, theme of the time, so you could really tell what time was like then. So then moving on to the medieval period between 500 CE and 1500 CE. I could do that math. That's 1,000 years.
Hell yeah.
So during the medieval period, monastic centers, right? Monastic centers and artisan guilds actually preserved and passed on this knowledge of glass making and engraving techniques.
I'm so glad. There's been so much lost because it just kept so private, and I understand that, but, like, someone has to do it.
Yeah. A lot of extinct art and crafts that are just, like, gone. You have to pass it on. So these monasteries housed skilled artisans who meticulously crafted engraved glass items for use in religious ceremonies and, of course, as decorative pieces, because everyone likes something pretty. So once again, engraved glass was widely used in religious art with intricately designed chalices, reliquaries.
Yep, you got it.
And ecclesiastical vessels, which became...
Good job, you did.
I did all these big words, which became, obviously, the expressions of, like, how they worshipped and their devotion and all of that. So because
they were making something beautiful, they didn't have to buy it, so it counted as an artistic thing, not a luxury item.
Yes. So
they could make it as beautiful as they wanted because they had a lot more freedom with things like that.
Yeah. So a lot of a lot of these pieces are really a form of artistic expression.
Oh, for sure.
And a lot of them are crazy pretty. And then so now it's kind of like your episode of stained glass, because stained glass windows in medieval cathedrals had engraved scenes from religious narratives.
Nice.
And so this shows like that they were able to do large scale like architectural pieces, these big windows. So artisans during the medieval period would also put in gold, leaf, and colored enamels into the engraving, so it created all these different dimensions.
I love it.
So kind of like with the
I bet it would like flood, like they would
so you
etch it in, and it could be the border of something else too.
Yeah.
With probably the opposite of having to do leading, so they could dig it in and
that would make sense.
Like blend the color together when they do the painting kind, not the colored panels, the painted kind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they would they started adding stuff to it. So so this was a lot of like it definitely helped with the aesthetic, as Avery says all the time. I like the aesthetic, you know. So it definitely became like an aesthetic of its own with these stained glass windows and all of that. So in the, you know, Gothic architectural style, which we can all, you know, picture the pointed like arches and really ornamental, like, you know,
it's very sharp and angular.
Yeah. And so those like that style really influenced the designs, obviously, of this engraved glass during that time period, the medieval time period. And engraved glass panels in Gothic cathedrals, like they are really like, I know you know what they look like, but they're very ornate and like
they really are
really
and
pretty.
Again, it's because there ends up being less of a limit on the funding for things like that. It's where they can, I don't want to say show off because that seems like rude, but it's where they can really flourish and shine with usually like who they know and to make things beautiful, because the average person could not afford those things.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's why you find it in a lot of like churches and it makes sense.
It's so beautiful. It's special.
Yeah. So now moving on to the Renaissance period, which is between the 14th and the 17th century. Once again, there was this new wave of interest in classical art, literature, and this was known as humanism, and it actually influenced glass engraving back to classical themes and motifs. So once again, wealthy patrons supported artists and engravers, which led to the creation of like these really pretty, kind of like with the Fabergé eggs, you know, you commission out, you say,
here's
okay,
the money,
here's
make
the money,
something
make
magical.
something. So they had the resources to be able to get really detailed, really fancy.
All the ideas that they have, I can do it.
And this was not just for religious purposes, but it could be a rich person that's like, I want this for my house. And so it didn't have to be religious.
Now, would these be like windows? Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, it could be. Or like glassware, or, you know, it could be a decorative piece in the house. So, but a lot of times it was like cups and plates and windows and that kind of thing. So then, you know, because we're now making more glass in different ways, so with the new technology in glass making, you have the development of crystal glass, and this was higher quality materials for engraving. So now you're just getting really fancy with the crystal glass. So it's not just like your basic glass like in the Roman period, you know, you got really fancy crystal glass. So then it became really popular, like we were saying, for decorative items, goblets, mirrors, and windows, mostly in churches and cathedrals, not so much like in someone's house. So during the Renaissance period, there was like a lot of symbolism from drawing inspiration from like mythology, of course, once again, biblical narratives. So this use of symbolism, the artist could kind of relay their feelings about a certain thing, or like, you know, so once again, artistic expression. So this is when like master glass engravers showed up, and they were actually getting recognition for this skill, because it's like not everybody knew how to do it, and not everybody could do it right. And so they
talk about a steady hand. Like, I don't have that.
No.
Even when I was little, I didn't.
No.
I never have. So like I have a different kind of a delicacy with like tools. That's fine, but not by hand.
Yeah.
So like not everyone can.
It is
and then imagine you get old.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like literally the older you get, what the heck? I'm like, I covered that topic and I was like, when they got old, they couldn't do it anymore because their hands were shaking. What the heck?
We cover so much.
Oh my God. But so it's like, that's another thing I bet as you get older.
So you just have to pass it on down and hope that someone else.
And hope you don't get some kind of medieval kind of like Parkinson's, like the tremors, like you'd get sick, you get viruses, and sometimes you come out with tremors.
Yeah.
Sorry, my brain just like.
Yeah, because this is this is the Renaissance period, and so we all know Renaissance period was all art, and it's like, so they, I'm sure, probably were getting paid pretty well.
Oh, I bet.
So these artisans actually had workshops, and like we were just saying, they would pass it down to apprentices. I'm not saying that again. So Venice is a well-known center for glassmaking, and it actually
for sure
it played a pivotal role in the glass engravement movement. The Venetian school actually had really these are so pretty. Well, obviously post pictures, but you just go look. There's a lot of really
seriously,
pretty
there
things.
ends up being seriously dozens and dozens, and we can't post them all.
Yeah, we can't. I literally,
our sources are good.
Yeah,
it's not like boring crap. We put them there for a reason.
So, diamond point glass was mostly Venetian made. So remember, just the diamond point, whether you're stippling or just carving. That became it was mostly Venetian made, and it became popular around it was really common around 1530. And this is fun fact here. There was actually the cargo of a ship that wrecked off the coast of Croatia in 1583 on its way to Constantinople. And it included engraved and other types of glass that were actually recovered after the wreck was rediscovered in 1967.
Oh, wow.
So the ship that went down in 1583 had all this cool engraved glass and stuff.
That's amazing. And because it was going to be low down on the ground, it wasn't going to experience a lot of abrasiveness because it's not rolling around. It's not tumbling. Wow, I love it. Oh, I love it. That reminds me of one of those freaking Expedition Unknown with Josh Gates.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right in.
Yeah.
I'm sure
he probably has already done that.
There.
He's probably already. So now in the 18th and 19th century, obviously there's a huge glass industry. It's just easy to manufacture and stuff. And so since glass is being mass produced, you can get glass to carve easier.
The Industrial Revolution.
So this just created more opportunities for people to engrave glass. You know? So neoclassical design principles inspired by ancient Greek and Roman art was basically the inspiration during this period. So Greek and Roman art. So it's taken it back. And they incorporated, at this time, engravers would incorporate classical motifs such as columns, urns, and mythological scenes, which is funny. It's across all these decades and generations and centuries.
Ivy
it's
and florals,
yes.
The hanging gardens and stuff. Magic.
So the romantic movement influenced the themes of engraved glass with the focus on nature, emotion, and sentimentalism. Oh, I said that.
Good job. That sounds
struggling.
Really
My
fun,
brain
though.
is I can read, but not out loud a lot of times.
It gets better the more we do it.
I know.
We're learning. We're learning things
words.
too.
I think I know you said write it out phonetically, but
I do sometimes
do that because I type it and it'll autocorrect it for me.
Just
sometimes.
try to remember to look up the word if it bothers you that much. You can just look it up, hear the pronunciation.
Like that sentimentalism.
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to be hard because I know that word. So anyways, once again, it's on glasses for drinking and decorative items, and they would have romantic scenes, like you were saying, ivy floral patterns, and so
pan and grapes. Sorry.
So obviously at this time it was considered a status symbol in the upper classes.
Everything
all
turns into that year.
So
they're that time frame. It's like that with everything.
So so if you had like fancy like formal dining plates and cups and all that was engraved, it was like,
oh my God, I bet they would do full sets for like family only motifs and everything. Like, this is your family's pattern.
Could you imagine the gossip at that time? Did you see Martha's?
Did you see her gravy boat?
Did you see that?
There was a
fruit
chip
bowl
in the etching. How could she put that out in public?
I think she hired one of those freelance artists.
Oh my gosh, from the back alley. How could she?
So
what a trollop.
So it just created this thing once again of if you had money you can get the really nice stuff
better than everybody else.
Even now that's how it is.
Classism has always existed.
So technological advancements in the 19th century improved like the engraving tools and the cutting machinery, and so it was just even more precise as time goes on, and you can kind of see this. It's crazy because you could definitely tell who is talented artists when you look back in history and then you compare it to now where we have so many more resources available, like laser. You could just laser cut it and it would be nice. But if you look at something done by hand, and you could really tell when someone's good at what they do because it's going to look like the laser engraved one.
Right.
Know? So then we go into the 20th century and then we have Art Deco and modernism. And so this obviously influenced the type of engraved glass. So you have clean lines, geometric shapes, and abstract designs. And so it's just like the time,
Yeah.
And in the mid-20th century, the studio glass movement revolutionized the art of glassmaking and engraving. And artists like Dale Chihuly and Harvey Littleton, they created like all these really pretty, unique glass pieces and showed like, there's all these other things you could do with it. So it's just once again like developing. So then you have sandblasting, laser engraving, and it just, that's kind of where we are today. Yeah. And like you said, we have like tools on the Cricut. You could totally engrave on a piece of glass, like a picture frame or something. And then this was really cool, and it will be in the show notes. Check the sources because there is still, so there's obviously still glass engravers today. And the UK Guild of Glass Engravers was founded in 1975, and it's based in London.
That's very new.
And you can go on the website and see all of the work. And these are current, like,
by
so
hand?
you could see, different techniques.
Okay.
And this
like
is where,
all of them.
Yeah, and this is where I learned a lot of the information on the techniques, because they say like, what is it? You could go on a deep dive, which I kind of did, and then I had to stop myself, and I was like, the history lesson itself is enough. But you can see all these like really pretty, like they do like a showcase type of thing, and so you can click on a specific show, event that they held, and you can see everything that was there. A lot of the pictures are not the greatest quality, but you could kind of see some of them have colors in it. Like I discussed how you can add colors into it. Some of them are just, you could tell with stippling, just a bunch of tiny little dots. So there's a lot of really cool pieces, big pieces, small little pieces. So, so anyways, I will finish this off with an inscription on a quote, amen glass, like AMEN. Amen. Amen.
Oh, okay.
Glass from England.
Okay.
And so this was kind of typical for the time. And so these Amen glasses, I'm like, if I say amen, it sounds weird. Amen. These usually had like an English rose, a royal monogram, or like a coat of arms, but then they had all this wording on it. And so this is what is all carved or engraved, not carved, well, technically carved, but engraved into these glasses. Oh gosh, this is where I had the hard words. Because it's not like, okay. Grant us one favor more, the king for to restore, as thou hast done before the family. God bless the church, I pray. God save the church, I pray. Pure to remain against all heresy, against all heresy, and Whigs' hypocrisy, who strive maliciously. Her to defame, God bless the subjects all, and save both great and small, in every station that will bring home the king, who has the best right to reign, is the only thing can save the nation.
Oh my gosh. How big is this cup?
A lot.
Is it like a chalice? Is it? Sorry, I'm screaming.
I'll show you.
I saw the tiniest reflection in the mirror behind you. I was like, get the fuck out of here. It was sorry. I just said copied that and pasted.
It's like a prayer. It's huge. But it's here, I'll show you. It is it's crazy because I don't think the way that it's written
is it like a dinner
on
cup?
There.
A communion cup?
It's a so it's called a Jacobite Amen glass.
Okay.
And it just looks like this. So it's like all over the cup, all like 360.
So it wraps around.
All of that's on there.
That must be very
That's
fine
a lot.
script.
Yes, it's like, look. It's like, see how it's all like, this one has a crown and a monogram.
Jeez Louise.
And it has like.
My arm and hand hurt thinking about it.
I know. Look at how tiny. See? And so it's like in sections. And so I tried to read it and like, it's not called a stanza, is it? The 4?
I think so.
Yeah. So it's like 4, little lines, 4 little lines. And it's all over the cup. So I think you start at one side and then like, whoop, 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 but it's all around. All those words that I said is on a cup.
All them their words.
Yep, it's on a cup.
Wow.
Engraved by hand by master
crazy.
artisans. It's really cool. So that's why I said it was long, because I kept like, ooh, I can add this and I can add that. And I was like, I had to cut down a lot because I was like,
well, looking at the time, it was only 25 minutes.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, I hope everyone liked that. But I knew I was
really
going to do something else. And then I was like, no, I got to do the glass etching.
Thing.
Yeah.
But I was lazier because I didn't feel good. And so the one I wanted to do ended up like, oh, there's way more than I thought.
And I was like, got started. And then I was like, oh no.
I swapped too.
And that's why I was like,
for next week's episode.
Tomorrow. But then you couldn't talk yesterday. So.
No, like I sounded worse than this now.
You don't even sound that bad.
I'm just like,
you just sound like you're
because
congested.
I can breathe through my nose fine. It's just, I think I've just been coughing so much.
Yeah. Well, okay. Bring it down.
Okay. So this case is we say this every time, but this one is just wow. And I watched several different things and it's intense. There's a lot out and I'd never heard of this before, so I'll be interested if you've heard of it because it happened in 2016.
Oh, okay.
Did it? Yeah, 2016.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. So I'm like, oh, let me count back, but we're still in 2023 as of right now.
Yeah, so it's not that long ago. Okay, this is the case of the Kendhammer family.
Have not heard of it.
Okay. Barbara Kendhammer is 46 and she is married to her husband Todd Kendhammer, and he is the same age. They were both born in March of 71, which is funny. They met when they were 16 at a wedding. It was, I believe, in the he said that it was her brother and his cousin were getting married, and that's how they met. And so they met and dated the entire time, high school sweethearts. They live in West, this cracked me up, West Salem, Wisconsin. And Barbara works at the local West Salem middle school as a lunch lady. She loves her job and she loves the kids. And Todd works at a something Crown. I messed that up. Something Crown, like, is it Royal Crown, like RC Cola? I don't know. But it's a soda manufacturer where they make soda cans, and he did the labeling part of the soda can part. And he did that part-time. And then he did like windshield repairs on vehicles. And then they also flipped houses. So they were busy, and they always spent their time together all the time. They had off, like they flipped houses together.
Mm-hmm.
She made beautiful dinners and stuff. They were really, really happy.
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 adult children at this time, a son and a daughter. I think maybe people have noticed I usually don't actually give the names of the kids.
Yeah.
Typically just because if you want to look into it, you'll find it yourself, but also just like I feel bad for children when they're children. Like you just, I don't know. I just don't bring it in.
Yeah.
Even though these are adults.
Yeah.
So anyway, their adult children had always mentioned that, you know, their parents were like so in love and anything that Barbara wanted, Todd would give her.
Yeah.
And they loved each other.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. It's, right?
Like pretty much anything
Seriously.
I want.
Within reason,
just,
totally.
Yeah.
Yep, if it's just going to make you happy, whatever. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, Kurt is absolutely the same way. So on September 16th, 2016, it was early in the morning, and Barbara always has a phone call with her mom in the morning. I think that's so adorable, like around breakfast time. I text my mom all day long, but
I FaceTime my mom every
oh,
morning.
that's cute. I should more, but I always talk to my mom every day. It's like good morning, good night. Even if I don't talk to her in between, it's always good morning, good night.
Yeah.
So she has a call with her mom after breakfast. This is her normal routine. And then this morning, Barbara and Todd get into the vehicle together. And they head the opposite direction of where her school would be for her to go to work.
Okay.
She has to be to work at 8 o'clock. And she's not at work now. And this is so unlike her. Her school supervisor tried to get a hold of her to be like, hey, is everything okay? Like, the whole school year, so from September, she hadn't missed a single day or been late at all. Like, our school systems start sometimes as early as August or the late end of July.
It was the first week of August this year, I think.
So, I'm not sure if theirs was. Probably not.
Or wasn't it the end of July?
So, not this time.
Okay.
Excuse me, Zoe. So, yeah, it's so unlike her. She's so fastidious about being on time, very punctual. So they don't get a hold of Barbara. And now her mom has noticed that she hasn't gotten her phone call.
Yeah.
And it is past 8 o'clock now. So she should be at work. And she still hasn't gotten this phone call. So this is like how much of a red flag is immediately going on. You know, routine is important. When parents are like, my kid would never run away, they know. Yeah. You're going to be honest with yourself of like, they could have, but like, they would never do this, you know. Yeah. Of course, there's extenuating circumstances. But anyway, this is totally one of those situations. They're immediately worried.
I would, well, I don't really get worried because I know my mom is just busy. They have a lot going on. Yeah. But I can see her location. So
that's true.
I know. Oh, she's just home. And we only do that because like, you know, for safety reasons.
Right.
Like, I don't have anything to hide. You can see where I'm at.
Exactly.
The only time I might turn it off is if I'm like Christmas shopping. I don't want you to see the what stores I'm at.
Go to. Right. So at I'm so sorry.
It's
at
okay,
8:06 at 8:06 in the morning, 911 operators get a phone call from Todd. Todd is screaming, and I listened to the 911 call. It's like really intense. He's screaming, and he is saying that a flatbed truck has come down the road in the opposite direction of them, and a pipe has flown off. It is busted through the windshield, and it hit his wife, like, the side of her head.
Oh, my gosh.
And, there, you know, she's seriously injured. There's blood coming from her nose, eyes, and mouth. And so EMS, the 911, I'm sorry, the responder, she's talking him through it. She's like, you're doing great. It's amazing. You're listening to this phone call, and I'm dying because it's so sad. And he's like, there's blood coming out of her mouth. Do I keep doing the chest compressions? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. You have to just keep going. You know, you're doing great. And it feels like an eternity. And police actually show up within 3 minutes. Oh, wow. And I couldn't even believe that it was only 3 minutes. Yeah. So police show up 3 minutes later, and he, you know, they're trying to help her out, and he's panicking, and he's explaining the situation of what happened to police, and he's like, you know, he's got blood on him, on his shirt, and he's scratched up in his hands because he's like, as the pipe was coming like towards, he like instinctively like went towards it, and when he tried to originally he tried to push the pipe out of the window, and then he got out of the car
to go around
and pulled it out from that way. And they're like, okay, they're getting all the information, and she's alive she's alive, but she's like, losing her consciousness. But they're doing their best. So they take her by ambulance, and Todd is escorted with the police to go to the hospital to be with her. And so during that time, they're asking the questions again, and he was saying, we're in the car and we're going because I'm going to do an order for a windshield. She's coming with me because they went together all the time.
Okay.
And so as they're, this is him in the squad car, and because I'm hearing the dash cam footage, and so they're just talking. He's like, I have a job that I'm going to, and she's coming with me, and he's explaining the whole thing over.
Work.
She was supposed to be at work, exactly.
That's weird.
So the police officer asks like what kind of car it was, and he's like, it's a little truck, those really hilarious little Hot Wheels truck that is like so teeny tiny. I think they're from more like the 80s. They were just like the mini cab. Teeny tiny little ones. So
is it kind of like the one that the neighbor has?
Smaller.
Oh, smaller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he said it had like makeshift metal paneling, rickety.
Oh, okay.
And he didn't see the driver, but that it was dark. And the truck was dark. Sorry.
Oh,
the paint job. Yeah. It was like either dark green, dark blue, or it could have been black. It was a dark paint job. And so anyway, they get to the hospital and they're doing work on her, but she unfortunately passes away the next day in the hospital. And it's really, really, of course, everyone's devastated.
Yeah.
And so, especially because it's an crime scene accident with vehicle things like this, they're going to try to find who did this, because they could be culpable if they didn't tie stuff down. Exactly. And this is a common thing that happens when somebody relatively young and healthy passes away. They do autopsies. It's common.
And it's like that. What's that movie?
Oh, the movie with the person. I have no idea.
No, where the logging truck.
Oh my god!
What's it called?
Final Destination.
Final Destination. Yes.
Yeah, growing up in the Pacific Northwest, like seeing the log trucks. So I actually googled.
I'm like, why would you drive behind a pole? Like someone with a pole.
Oh, I know. I actually googled this. So this freak accident happens way more than we think.
Yeah.
Part of the article was saying 500 people die a year just from debris flying off of items. So we're talking, it's caused accidents, those types of things. Doing a super quick Google search of pipes flying off of trucks, just within the last few years, I found 5.
What?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
So one of them was a tire that came through the windshield and killed a guy.
Okay.
So that's horrific. So that's just a freak accident I threw in because that's like the tire came off, went through the windshield. Another guy had a super close call because it came right through, and it was like a millimeter away from getting him.
I've seen like a TikTok
and 3 other people have died.
Wow.
One of them was a woman in Canada, and it just happened October 2nd of 23.
That's crazy.
And it's so crazy. So like this is unfortunate thing that can happen. Well, it's a freak occurrence, 1 in a million, but it does happen.
Yeah. Jack had he was on the freeway and he had something come off. It was small and didn't break it chipped his windshield pretty bad, but it was a county truck. And so he's got to go through all the steps to get that.
Oh my gosh.
Was it
his vehicle or was it the truck?
It was his car. He was on his way home from work.
That sucks.
And like he didn't know if it was a rock or whatever, but he was behind a county truck and it like hit his windshield from he saw it come off of the truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
but that's scary. I'm like, oh, new fear.
Well, new fear unlocked ever since Final Destination.
Yeah, I was like, ever since then, I never drive behind trucks that have stuff like tied up on it. No, that ladder's gonna come flying at me.
I'll lighten this for 2 seconds. One of my favorite comedians, Brian Regan, he's like a really clean comedian. He's really funny. He talks about that one time. He's like, have you ever been on a road and like you see a truck with logs going north and you see another truck south? And he's like, you have logs, but they have logs. Why are you going? It's funny. I know it doesn't work that way, but anyway, okay. So I'm so sorry. So they're going to do an autopsy.
Okay.
Yeah. They're going to do an autopsy on Barbara because depending on the injuries from that pipe is determining like, I'm sure like criminal charges. That's how they get through, and they have to prove what
what happened, what killed her, and
exactly.
ultimately.
Exactly, because a lot of things happen when you're struck with a huge object. This pipe was 53 inches long and weighed 10 pounds. So that's pretty hefty. Imagine a little heavier than a gallon of milk.
I know, I was picturing you when you said that he pulled it out. I was like, how big is this thing?
Yeah, I'm
thinking
sorry.
like
I was
a
like, I was
giant
getting
pole.
to it. Pretty big,
but it is big, yeah.
Yeah, 53 inches. It's like
an arm's
my
length.
arm span.
Yeah.
Okay. So they are showing, the autopsy shows that Barb has died of multiple blunt force injury to the head and neck. Her hyoid bone, which is actually a large, thick piece of cartilage in a U shape that protects your windpipe, was broken.
She was strangled.
And her body and mouth had scratches, including her neck area.
What?
So,
first of all, multiple?
Yes, multiple blunt force.
So not
just one
blow from a pole.
Yeah. So the thing is, when police and EMS had showed up to the accident, they're immediately like, what the fuck is happening? They immediately have feelings about this guy and this situation. Granted, it's a freak accident. That seems almost unbelievable on its own, but weird crap happens all the time.
Yeah.
So they're going to bring him in for questioning because they have to, exactly like you said, they have to get the entire perspective from him in the vehicle. And so the way he explains is that this pipe flew off, but he immediately said he thought it was a bird or something.
Okay.
And when in the 911 call, he said, a pipe or something. A pipe or something? You pulled the fucking pipe out of the windshield. Yeah. But he's really a very anxious guy. He has prescribed alprazolam, which is generic Xanax. He just is a fidgety, stressed out guy. So the thing is, under pressure, I had to call 911 once for a downstairs neighbor, and I struggled so hard because I was panicked to just open the security code on my phone. I kept trying to put 911 in my phone code. I'm like, what am I doing? You do ridiculous stuff under pressure sometimes.
I've had to call 911 a few times, and a couple times I was a little frazzled.
It's always hard. It's never easy. So they're like, okay, they're talking to him. They're trying to figure out what happened. And so he says that he thought it was a bird or something. So instinctually, he reached over to like block it. And that's how he said he has scratches all over his hands and knuckles. And they're like, okay, but you said that you were right-handed. So why are all the scratches and mostly the damage is done to your left hand? And he's like, well, I kept my hand on the wheel and I crossed over. Like, that kind of makes sense. Like, if I'm dominant handed, I don't think I would take my hand off.
That does not make sense. You know the mom move?
Did your arm?
You get your right arm out.
True.
You put your right arm out right away. Like, I'm going to brake so fast, and your reflex.
You're going to break your fucking arm off, but you're still going to put your arm out. You're so right.
It's the reflex of you put out like your right arm to save someone,
or you push them out of the way, probably.
Yeah. So
already though, that makes no sense because we're talking. If you thought you were going to block that pipe, that means you had like pro athlete level reflexes. Let me tell you, this guy's got a potbelly bitch tits. So,
So not fast reflexes. No. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Keep going.
So the pipe comes through the window and it hits her. It's not like a through her head or through her throat situation. It hit her through the side of, it slammed into her head.
Okay.
Through this way. And she has a very large abrasion, but these are what they call, oh crap, I forgot. Anyway, it's to the skull. Like, that's how deep it is. It's to the skull when she got hit. And he says after that, she started flailing, and he's meaning seizing. So she had seizure activity, and that caused her to throw herself forward and slam her throat into one of those huge, like, gallon. You've probably seen them. Truckers have them. Those big, giant, huge gallon water jugs.
Yeah.
And they have it. They show, like, a picture. It's a huge, like, steel and gray one that she had been drinking from that was in her lap. And they're like, okay, it's plausible. It's still these weird things, but they are plausible. He's going through. And so he says he knew how to do CPR from work. It's something he had to do for work. And that, so he had gotten out of the car, pulled the pipe out of the windshield, and when, and then he removed her from the vehicle to do the CPR, And he said that he did CPR for a few minutes, actually, before he had called 911 because he knew how to do CPR. So he was going to try to do that first.
Yeah.
But then he stopped because he was freaking out because so much blood is coming out of her mouth. and like your mouth, you know. So, and the 911 operator, you know, she had said it's fine. It's got to come out. It's going to come out, but you have to get air in. So investigators now are like, okay, let's find this flatbed. So they go around to every property that surrounds this area. I'm sorry, I watched so much crap on this and I didn't even write the name of the road that they're on. It's not super rural, but it is kind of back out off of a way. Okay. So they search every single property and they find a business. It's a horse ranch, and they have security footage that is pointing. It's crazy because you can see it. It's like, I'm showing you. It's like a quarter nickel size patch of open. And they're like, here you can see their Camry come around. You know, you see it pass. There's no truck. There's no truck visible, period. Yeah. There's 4 other vehicles within a very, not a short amount of time, but these were, there's,
it would have to be one before them.
There's,
for them to be behind.
Crossing, because they were going this way like that. Okay. Parallel, you know, oncoming parallel two ways.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You said it was oncoming, not like it fell off the back of the truck.
Yeah, it was oncoming. And so there was only 4 cars that they saw. And so they saw the Camry drive past at 7:57 a.m. This is all, it totally correlates to when the accident happened, him doing CPR for a few minutes. Basically, when the car drove past, the accident happened right after that. And then the CPR, 911, it all is...
Okay, so far it's lining up.
Yes, the timeline totally lines up. And... so they, you know, ask him again, well, what are you guys doing? Why were you with her? What time does she start work? And he said 8:30. She's not had this job for a little while. Yeah. It starts at 8 on the dot. It's always started at 8. Yeah. And so then, you know, they're like, well, why did you say 8:30? And he was like, well, it was just a mistake. You know, it's 8 o'clock. And they were saying, well, what were you guys doing? He said, I'm going to go do that job to change the windshield and in somebody's truck. And she was just coming with me. And the investigators, they're interrogating him and they're saying, well, but then your wife was going to end up being late for work. And
that's my
he was just like, yeah. So that did not make any sense. And she didn't even call her supervisor to say she was going to be
a little late or whatever. Yeah, or I'm taking the day off.
A lunch lady, they do breakfast at a lot of schools. But, you know, and they cook the food back there too, and, you know, ahead of time. But, you know, I'm sure if you're always on time, being a little late wouldn't have been a big deal. Yeah. So the investigators call up the man that Todd has said they had like the work order for the windshield. His name is Justin Heim. And Justin said that no, he did not have a work order for him. He was a coworker of his at the soda factory. And that he was pretty sure that Todd didn't even know where he lived. Yeah. And then Todd was saying, well, actually, it was for his friend. It was for Justin. Sorry, I had to look back at my notes. It was for Justin's friend. Okay. And Justin said, yeah, my friend did want to have a windshield replaced at one time, but they never set it up because it was a farm truck. So when a farm truck has a busted windshield, it doesn't matter. You're not driving on the street. Yeah. So he decided to not put the money into an old farm truck. Yeah. So then Todd lies and says it was somebody else that Justin knew, like another coworker. And obviously there's nobody. And he's just like, I was frazzled and I thought that
frazzled. You said the same thing over, like, wrong thing after wrong thing. Your story is now changing.
Yeah, and so he says that that it was somebody that he talked to, and he was pretty sure that his friend had said that they were gonna park the car at Justin's property, and he could just do the work there, grab, whatever. Okay. So they're still kind of like, okay, that's weird. Like, you keep changing your story. Yeah. But this is also from the story that he had originally told the police minutes after the accident happened. So they kind of like put out some feelers for the area. Did anybody drive through that area at some point in time? Exactly. Least, yeah. Somebody came forward, a witness named Randy Erler. He said that he passed by, again, I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the road. It had a cool name too, but as you see these weird notes I tucked in place, I kept going back. It was fine. A lot. So he said that he passed that same road right before 8 a.m. And he said that he did see the Camry and that it was backed up into a ditch, which is a really weird. He said he made a Y turn is what it looked like. So he pulled in and pulled back. And that the passenger door was open. He didn't see anybody at all in the area, and there was zero damage to the windshield.
Mm-hmm.
So, because of this, with all of the physical evidence that was on Barb's body, because she did have bruising and stuff throughout her body as well, they arrest Todd, and it is
I think obvious.
I think it's like 81 days after December, I believe it's December 6th is he's arrested. So they did a very deep investigation to find the camera footage, to find these witnesses. This is what they pulled together in their investigation. And so because he is so agitated and everything, all of these things are noted, like, as you know, the body language is monitored and all of these things. They know that there's something going on because of how much his story has changed. Like, why did he have so many injuries on his neck and also scratches on his chest? Mm-hmm. There was no glass that was present enough for him to have been scratched in that way on his chest.
Yeah.
And he says, well, it's because I do like windshield work. And they're telling him, okay, but like, how recently? Now, here's the thing. Some people have very different lives behind closed doors, and lots of people get scratches for lots of ways.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so because of all of this evidence, they're totally ready. They have so much lined up. Investigation shows that this is so crazy because it's just something I would have never thought of. There is no glass in the gear shift. So there would be glass, the little ripply bits of the gear shift.
Uh-huh.
So if the car was in drive, there would have been glass in the front for his version of a Camry. I believe it was a 2009 Toyota Camry. So the glass should have been in the front.
Yeah, because if you're in gear.
Mm-hmm, so the glass was only found in
the back
park while the vehicle was in park. Also, the passenger seat is covered in glass. Let's pretend that glass was glitter. If you're sitting in a car and someone throws glitter on you and you stand up, is the entire seat going to be covered in glitter? No. There's going to be patches where your body was in the way of that. So they found that really interesting too. The other thing is they found no glass in that little map compartment door of the passenger side.
Oh.
So that equated to the door being open. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
There is one bloody fingerprint on the driver's side mirror that technically could be explained by him reaching out to her while she had blood on her with the pipe. He did try to push it, and then he got out. You're going to stabilize yourself and run around. So that was a piece of evidence, but it could be explained.
Mm-hmm.
The same rust that was found on the pipe was also found in the trunk.
Oh.
And inside of the lip of the trunk, there is a tiny piece of grass wedged in such a way between the trunk and the hinge, the gap where the trunk fills in. It shows that it was proven that when the car was backed up into the ditch, the trunk was open and closed because the piece of grass was trapped. There's no way it could have jammed up as you backed into a large field.
That's crazy. So I know I was just trying to figure, would that pole fit?
Right,
fit
in a little Toyota Camry.
I know
it would have to be diagonal.
I was just talking earlier about my BMW, and I could cram a lot.
It was probably put in there diagonally because when he took it out, this is weird because out of all the things I saw in the 911 footage, they're like, "Where's the pipe?" And he, I believe I hear him say, "I just it's over there by the car." So he had just tossed it aside. That was an odd part. Why is there rust in the trunk? From that pipe that matched.
Yeah.
So there was, blood splatter that was in the car that matched, a blunt force trauma that was done. But the medical examiner noted, alongside the bruises and the scratching, that there were bruises in the inside of her lips, of her mouth, that indicates a blunt force trauma to the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's like when Lincoln bit through his lip. You can
it's
tell
so
when
weird. It has
there's
perfect teeth marks. It's exactly mouth lined up. She also has bruised fingernail beds and 2 torn fingernails.
Oh gosh, so that indicates a fight.
Yeah. There is no indication on her entire body in any form to be a pipe. There was no circular type of like a crescent moon type of shape. The end of the pipe did have like a really, really strange, almost like a giant octagon of metal around it, almost like if a bolt or a nut was fused onto it.
Okay.
But there was no signs. There was no threading. If you got hit with a pipe that had threading, it would like cut. It would be raggedy. So there's zero information. There's zero indication that she was hit with a pipe. On top of the fact, there's 3 to the bone gashes in the side of her head, side and the back of her head. Like, how does that happen? Did it bounce around in the car 3 times? So this is something that is happening. So prosecution has their own expert for medical examination, and the defense also has their own. And the defense really believes that with the jug to her throat, it's absolutely possible. Because I mean, that's like I'd barely hit it now, and that hurts, and it feels damaging. But there was no bruising consistent to her throat with that
type
cup.
of impact.
Exactly. There would be like the little nubbin you slide to open the mouth.
As soon as you said the hyoid
or
bone,
the straw, I know, right?
I'm like, that's
so it immediately gets very suspicious, and the hospital thought the exact same thing when they start doing the autopsy. So again, the prosecution's talking to him about the scratches on his hand, and he still stands by the fact that they are from trying to push the pipe out, and they're like, okay, that's fine. So there was tissue that was underneath Barbara's fingernails that they were able to extract, and DNA analyst Kevin Scott, he said that what was under Barbara's fingernails was absolutely a match to Todd's, but he can't definitively say how it got there.
Yeah.
Because I've seriously been like, scratched my back. It hurts so bad. And he scratched the holy hell out of it. And I was like, he had a ragged fingernail. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Looks like a cat got to my back. Like, what the hell happened? So, they just have to go with the science, go with the facts. Yes, it matched. But I mean, who knows how it got there? Crime scene investigator Nick Stalkey, he said that the windshield was hit at least 2 times. There's no way it was only hit 1 time. So there's, again, this is being, in trial. They bring up the having no glass in the side door compartment, so that the door was probably open when it happened. Stalkey used luminol to show up all the blood splatter that was inside the car that wasn't visible. And he said that there was blood, tiny little droplets of blood that were around the seat, like the front edge of the seat. The seatbelt, had blood. The center console did have blood on it, but the headrest did not.
What?
Yeah.
The headrest?
Her
head was pinned with the pole?
At least there should have been some back spray.
Yeah.
Yeah, the headrest had none.
Huh.
So, Todd would say that the reason that there's multiple, hits on the window shield is because the pipe hit it, bounced, and then came back this way. So imagine doink,
yeah,
like that.
I'm
showing you,
that.
But just imagine an arch. Yep. So the forensic investigator says that by the law of physics, this is impossible.
Yeah.
And they show the court. They went through this, and I watched it, and there was dumb music played over it.
There always is.
And they had a pipe matching the same exact length, width, diameter, weight. It rolls off. It rolls off. It rolls off, bounces to the way off to the side, like the side of the road.
Yeah.
It would not have hit. They're going the exact same speed. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
they could not replicate it. They said they did it dozens of times. There's no way it would have even come close to that.
Yeah.
But this is still a 1 in a million freak accident that we know happens.
Yeah.
But the defense has suggested that Barb's injuries could have been from being grabbed and pulled out of the vehicle, because the bruises is consistent on her biceps with being, and then also picked out of the ditch to be put on a stretcher to be taken into the ambulance. So because of this, prosecution comes back because, of course, defense is going to try to make everything. They got an answer for everything.
Yeah.
So prosecution comes back and they ask their medical examiner, could this be consistent with what happened? And she said, absolutely. They asked, could her injuries also be consistent with a physical assault or strangulation and blunt force trauma? And she said, absolutely.
Yeah.
The problem is, again, this is straight facts. They're not going to blame anybody. They have only the empirical evidence in front of them. So, excuse me. Still, Todd insists that the broken hyoid bone is from her having a seizure. And again, that technically, yes, that could have possibly happened, but they really don't think so. No. This continues. None of his stories line up. One of the dumbest things he says, they're going back and forth. I just hate this guy in general. The moment I saw him, I just hated him. And because he's like got this like grating, as I sound like the way I do right now. He has this like grating, mousy voice, and he's just he stutters a lot. And so anyway, his story constantly changes. And so one of the times they had asked him, like, so you mentioned this about the work orders for the windshields. And he is like, yes, I did say that. And he said, so was it a lie? And he said, no, it was not. But it wasn't the truth. No, it was not.
That's a lie.
Legit quote. This is what I'm looking right at him in his court. I watched so much of this court trial. There's hours and hours and hours of footage because it's insane. Yeah. It's so sad. It is such a freak accident that everybody was like, whoa. I have no idea how I never heard of it. Yeah. Because it's Wisconsin and not the West Coast, I guess. But it's crazy. So anyway, closing arguments finished Thursday, December 17th. I'm so sorry. The 14th, 2017, at about 8:30 in the, late morning. Mm-hmm. I'm so sorry. I got weird hiccups. It's rude. The jury deliberated until, I didn't even know they did this. That seems late. It's like weird. The jury deliberated until just past 9 p.m. actually. Oh, okay. And then they came back with a verdict of guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. Mm-hmm. And the sentencing was scheduled for March 9th of the next year. So he had to be in jail. He was held for quite a while. Uh-huh. And when he was then sentenced, he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 30 years. Okay. Pretty much what the prosecution has tied together is, and literally there's nothing. He stands by his innocence. What they think, what I've heard, what I've also, just in general. I think this was a spur of the moment insanity thing that he did. I think it wasn't planned. I think they think this too. They were driving down the road, got into a fight over something. He beat the holy hell out of her. It's crazy to me, but apparently you can beat someone with your fist and it busts their head open to the skull. Yeah. Depends on how hard you hit them. So he was beating her, probably trying to grab her, maybe trying to choke her from over there. And then they think that the scratches on her neck was from her own hands, scratching at his hands, trying to claw his hands off of her neck. The bruising on her arms is he was probably reaching over and throttling her or grabbing her. They do believe that the medical examiner thinks that the injuries to her mouth could be consistent with being punched directly in the mouth. Yeah. But they don't think so because there's no visible bruising on the outside. What they think happened is that in the moment that Randy Erler had drove past and he saw the car, that he was smothering her face on the side of the road. And he was pushing her mouth down so hard because he said on 911 that he had been screaming for help. When Randy Erler drove by, if Todd was screaming for help, he would have heard him. Yeah. So they think he was just choking her and pushing her mouth down to try to kill her, but it didn't work. They honestly have no idea why. Zero idea. There's zero motive. His children, her mother, all stand behind Todd.
What?
100%. The entire I have goosebumps. I'm so pissed. Their entire community, both his children, not her own mother. The courtroom was so full with supporters for Todd. I didn't know that it's like a wedding, I guess. Defense and prosecution, they'll split up one for one and one for the other. There was so many there for Todd. The only person that was there for Barbara was one cousin.
What?
One single cousin. And the sad part is that, abuse is never what people think it is.
No.
And it doesn't have to be. No, people don't tell. Not even your best friend. Not even your mom you talk to every day.
Yeah, sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's not.
No, sometimes it could be so verbal. He may have never hurt her in their entire 20, I think they were together 30 years, from 16 to 47. Yeah, it's almost 30 years. So they think he just snapped one day.
Maybe.
And so, unfortunately, because of this, he had set up, he tried to get a retrial. They tried to get a retrial. I believe I fudged it up because there were so many notes I kept adding in. It was really recent though. I think it was 20 or 21. Like it just happened.
Okay.
And, his children were there for him, and, he got like one of the top defense attorneys. I didn't watch this show, but he got the guy that defended the guy from Making a Murderer.
Oh, that guy? Okay.
I guess so, yeah. Somebody famous. I didn't watch that show.
I did.
And so it's not working out, but we're still waiting to hear back. Like nothing has happened for that. So the reality is the reason he has the possibility of parole is because technically they can't prove it. Yeah. It's very unfortunate, but they cannot 100% without a shadow of a freaking doubt prove it. And it's just insane because it's like, if he killed her somewhere else, which like the timeline lines up, I don't think so. I think her bruises on her biceps was him grabbing her. Oh, I'm so sorry. One part I didn't, because I didn't write it down. There was also evidence showing that at one point she was slumped over into the driver's side, like across the console. Okay. So she like fell over and he didn't even like go to like, you know what I mean? If someone was starting to fall over, I'd probably run back and like grab him. So I think the bruising on her bicep was him dragging her very forcefully out of the vehicle.
Yeah.
So this is so long, but we've done this before. I do not want to leave it off on this fucking asshole. And I'm so ashamed of his family. That kills me inside. So I want to talk a little bit about Barbara.
Okay.
So Barbara loved to garden. It was like her favorite thing to do. Yeah. She really, they didn't need the money. She really loved being a cafeteria lunch lady. And I'll tell you, one of the nicest women I knew in elementary school, period, was the lunch lady.
Yep. I remember
They're like
my
the
lunch
most
lady.
Precious. They're like everybody's auntie, grandma, mama. They're precious.
I remember the lunch lady because we had our cafeteria. It was like a little U. And so you'd go to the cooler and you'd pick out your like carton of milk or whatever, and then you get your tray, and then you walk around, and then you get your food, and then you go to the lady that's there and you give them your like student number or whatever. And she was always so sweet. She remembered me, and
it's crazy. They literally do. They memorize 550 kids.
Yes,
it's
she didn't know everybody's, but like I ate at the cafeteria every breakfast and lunch.
Yeah,
because we got like the free breakfast lunch, and so
they
it
do
just
that
made
here
sense.
now, which is super cool.
Yeah, and so I had breakfast and lunch there, and so she knew me because there wasn't a lot of kids that did the breakfast there. But yeah, I could have totally.
At my school either.
Huh?
I said there wasn't at my school. Not a lot of kids had breakfast at my school either.
I did because
those little box cereals are so cute.
I know.
Yeah.
So
adorable.
yeah, I could totally picture
for
her
sure.
as
She was so happy and well loved. She loved those babies at that middle school, and we know teenagers are difficult, and so she was very
middle
loved.
School's tough.
Yes. She had a super, super special, loving connection to animals. She really loved, she'll rescue anything. She had donkeys and some chickens.
Why does she sound like me?
Because she had some donkeys and chickens because she just loved animals. Anything she could. She had everything. They had dogs and cats, and they really did. She couldn't just have it
shaking.
She couldn't just leave it. So she really loved these animals. And she was super active and really outdoorsy. She really loved camping and she loved crafts. And she loved to snowmobile.
Oh.
Like, she was a super cool lady. And she was a really, really amazing Grammy to her one grandchild.
Oh.
It's poor Barbara.
Yeah.
What a ridiculous mess.
That is insane. Well, with all the evidence that you were telling me, it definitely.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm like,
come on now.
You know, with
these freak
the glass,
accidents
the blood,
happen, but this is not.
Yeah, the fact that the pipe was in the trunk.
There's something.
Those
weird
3 things right there. Oh no, the 4th, the hyoid bone.
Yep,
you don't break a hyoid bone. Just like slamming into something.
No, I don't think so.
The hyoid bone is like really hard to like. It's
and there would have been a
strangulation
bruise from her cup. There would have been some kind of marking that they could line up.
Yeah, so
they know. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's so sad.
I know, and it's so freaking bananas to me. This insane. The scariest part is he seems like such a meek. I called him bitch tits. Such a meek, frail dude, and. This timeline, this shit happened in less than 10 minutes. He came up with this monstrous plan that fast, and that is so scary.
I kind of think he probably had thought about it before.
And I'm also wondering, he never said anything. It's so weird out of all these things. They never said, but I'm wondering, quote unquote, like, did he try to explain? Sorry. If I sat and watched, I believe it was like 4 hours of his interrogation is on YouTube. I probably would find it, but his voice makes me want to choke him. But maybe he said it there. But I'm wondering if he probably was like, oh, well, I went to the trunk to try to see if I had a rag or any kind of first aid kit.
Yeah.
I got rust. That's plausible.
Yeah,
but there was no, and I really
that
want to know.
That would have been brought up in the defense.
Yes. And so I'm probably going to, I'm like, I need to know. Am I going to watch the whole thing?
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot because I think there's like 9 hours of trial.
Yeah.
But it's fucked up.
Yeah, it is. Wow.
I got this was insane. Like, of course we deep dive all of these, but this was the craziest I've heard of. And like the old ones are crazy, but this is like, wow. I can't believe his family.
I know that's
I get it though. Like a psychologist, one of I think I'll put it in my sources because it's really good too. Oh, and yes, I will because I'm gonna not quote him, but generally what he said, he had such a good point. More than likely, he's not going to get paroled because part of parole is showing remorse, and he refuses to take accountability for what happened.
Yeah.
So there's a really good factor of that possibly, but 30 years. He's going to be, okay, he was 46. He was 47 by the time it happened. 30 years, he's going to be 77. That's still 10, 15, who knows how long. He could get out.
That is crazy. He could. I mean, maybe, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
That's
okay,
crazy.
I'm going to die. We have to go.
Well, you did really good.
Thank you. You did too.
Yeah.
We got both like one of our longest episodes.
We both really got into it. So... with that, stay crafty.
And not cry me your coffee.
Yeah.
Bye. Bye.